So this last section is for our hyperbola. So from our last section, we had ellipses, or an ellipse, and I'll graph that so we can kind of get a memory. It's an oval, right? But when I change that plus to a minus, it goes the other way. So that's called a hyperbola. So we need to figure out what are the slopes of the asymptotes. So let's just look. Here's your notes. A hyperbola has a lot going on. Okay, there are, now the vertex is the end of the parabolas. There's two of them now. There's still a focus. And then the transverse axis is where you're on. So it can be on the x-axis or the y-axis. Ours is the x, because that's where the vertices are. Okay, and then the slope of the asymptotes that it's asking us to find, the asymptotes are these lines that make an X that go along the sides. So it's asking us, what are the slope of those lines? And we figure out by looking at our standard form. So X comes first in our equation. That means a squared is under X. So it's a little different than an ellipse. You're just looking at what comes first. That's a squared. So for us, a squared is 36 and b squared is 49. So that would make a plus or minus 6 and b plus or minus 7. Okay, so when we're on the x-axis for transverse axis, that means that b over a and negative b over a are the slopes. So plus or minus b over a. So 7 over 6 and negative 7 over 6. And I'm just going to graph those so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. It doesn't ask for the line equations, but I'm going to put them in there. Just ask for the slope. So see how those lines go right in between our hyperbola, and they will eventually just line up on that slope. Okay, so 7 over 6 and negative 7 over 6. Those are the slopes. Okay, here's another one, but this time we have some shifts. So again, it works just like our circles, just like our ellipse. If I change, so if that was y plus 13 over 9, that's plus 13 over 49. So now y comes first in our equation. So the parabola switched spot. Now we're on the y-axis and our center is way down here at negative 13 because of what's in the parentheses is opposite. Okay, so this is actually asking for what is the slope. So now that we're on the y-axis, it's a over b and negative a over b. They switch. Okay, so a squared, remember, always go back and look at your equations if you can't remember. A squared always comes first on a hyperbola. So a squared is 9 and b squared is 49. So that would mean a would be plus or minus 3 because we take the square root of both sides. B squared is 49, so b would be plus or minus 7. So our slopes are 3 over 7 and negative 3 over 7. Okay, so we're also going to have to find the vertices, and on some of these, I'd like you to just utilize your graphing calculator when you can. So we have y minus 1 squared over 16, and then x minus 7 squared over 64. So the vertices are on each parabola, and where they're getting a minimum or maximum. So 7/5 and 7-3. Not 7/5, 7/5. It's a point. And 7-3. Those are our vertices. So for this one, we can just see them from the graph. If you want to solve it out and find it, you can, but you don't have to. Okay, find the slopes, but we're not in standard form. So this one, sorry guys, we got to complete the square and get it in standard form. So I'm lining up my x's, I'm lining up my y's, minus y squared minus 10y equals -38. So there's a number by x squared, we got to take it out. Oops, shouldn't have done that yet. And then we're going to complete the square and add out a number. There's also a number by y squared. Do you see it? And then we'll add those numbers on. Okay. So this number is going to be 9 times something. And this number is going to be -1 times something. So take the middle term, divide by 2. So I have 9 from right there. X plus 4 squared. That 4 gets squared here. So 16. Minus, I'm not going to write the 1, but there's a 1 there. Y plus 5 squared. 5 squared is 25. Equals -38 plus 9 times 16 minus 1 times 25, 81. So notice we have to have the minus here to make an ellipse. They're not an ellipse. Wrong section. Hyperbola. That's why I pulled out the negative. Okay, so we're going to divide by 81 all the way through. The only thing that changes is that's a 1, and that is now, that should be 81 over 9. So our standard form is x plus 4 squared over 9 minus y plus 5 squared over 81 equals 1. This is standard form. We want the slopes. Okay, so x comes first. That means we're transverse along the x-axis. That means our slopes are -b over a and b over a. Okay, well, a squared always comes first when we're looking at hyperbolas. So a squared is 9. So a is plus or minus 3. B squared is 81, so b is plus or minus 9. So -9 over 3 and positive 9 over 3 reduces to -3 and 3. Okay, it's a lot of work to complete the square. Hopefully you just have a couple of those. When you already have it in this form and you just have to find the slopes, it's not that bad. So this time y squared comes first. That means our slopes are a over b positive and a over b negative. And then a squared always comes first when we have the hyperbola. So a is plus or minus 8. You get that from taking the square root. B squared would be plus or minus 10. So our slopes would be a over b. 8 over 10 positive, 8 over 10 negative, and they reduce. These both divide by 2, right? So 4/5 and -4/5. There we go. Write the equation in standard form. So let's do another complete the square. I'm gonna line up my y's first because I'm subtracting x squared. So this one I can already tell it's transverse along the y-axis. Minus 4 squared, 4x squared plus 24x equals 43. So we're going to pull out any numbers in front. There's nothing in front of y squared, so there's nothing to pull out. But we are still going to add something on there. But there is a -4 outside bx. We're going to take out a minus 4 from both of these. And then we'll add on a number, equals 43. So we're going to add the number that's here, and then add a negative 4 times whatever number's there. Okay, let's complete the square. Divide by 2 is y plus 3 squared. Well, 3 squared is 9. Divide by 2, bring down the minus 4, x minus 3 squared. Negative 3 squared is also 9, but that time we have to times it by the negative 4. So let's do that. 43 plus 9 plus negative 4 times 9, 16. Okay, last step. Divide everything by 16. That becomes 1, and that becomes 4. So y plus 3 squared over 16 minus x minus 3 squared over 4 equals 1. That's our standard form. That's it. It's not asking us to find anything else. So find the slopes. Again, we have to get this in standard form. So 9x squared plus 72x minus y squared minus 12y equals negative 27. So I'm going to take the 9 away from the x's and the negative 1 away from the y's. So I have x squared plus 8x plus some number when we complete the square minus 1 y squared plus 12y plus some number equals negative 27 plus 9 times that number minus 1 times that number. Complete the square. Middle term divide by 2. Bring down your front. So x plus 4 squared. 4 squared is 16. Minus, divide by 2, y plus 6 squared. 6 squared is 36. So equals negative 27 plus 9 times 16 minus 1 times 36, 81. Okay, it has to equal 1, so I'm going to divide by 81 all the way through. So I have x plus 4 squared over 9 minus y plus 6 squared over 81 equals 1. We are transversaling the x-axis since it comes first. That's a squared, that's b squared. So that means if we're along the x-axis, it's b over a is our slope. Well, b squared is 81, a squared is 9, so b would be 9 and a would be 3. So take the square root. So plus or minus 3. That's our last one. So good luck with this section.